Ben White clip. It's just so funny. It's so good.
Do you reckon he knew the camera was filming him?
He always knows.
He must have done.
Have you seen him walking down the tunnel after the game? There's a clip of him as well.
No.
Oh no, doing what?
So Spurs fans are giving him stick, and he just looks up and goes, "Easy."
I was thinking about this earlier. I think he might be my favourite Arsenal player now. He's played and sort of become that person to me. I just love him so much. I love everything about him. I think he's so funny.
He's definitely the most interactive Arsenal player, and I love players that interact with fans, especially rival fans, because it goes back to that. I think the Northern Derby last season where he did the 2-0 walking off against Spurs fans. So was it? Yeah, it was the last season. So yeah, man, massive performance by lads. Welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. In what is the day after a magnificent day in North London. It was, let's just say, it was a very weird game. I didn't know what to make of it post of it. We did instant reaction, obviously, on the Cannon Podcast, and it was weird to understand because the first half we weren't that good, yet we were 3-0 up. In the second half we were better, and yet we conceded 2 goals. So, George, what was your initial thoughts after that game, apart from obviously jubilation and North London is red?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the second half was a better in-possession performance, but I just thought Arsenal had an elite defensive performance throughout the match. I was looking at the first half and, for all the field tilt metrics and for everybody really worried about the general play, which I thought was sloppy in possession, there was just some normal people that just weren't able to control the ball. But the defensive shift was absolutely incredible. I think the speed to which we were able to snap into a block was something that really impressed me. It's been actually impressing me the last couple weeks because I feel that Arsenal have absolutely chosen moments when to turn it on in games. And I think people want to clown and there's going to be an over-analytical lens to how we're going to finish the run-in. But factually speaking, everybody is operating in the red zone right now. Everybody. There's not going to be a team that is going to operate at full capacity unless you have 2 weeks off and have a mini winter break. And, to sit there and expect an Arsenal team to do that is just illogical. They've played 6 games in April, 5 of which are wins. We'll get into the actual numbers of just how dominant Arsenal have been broadly in the run-in. But I think that Arsenal are choosing their moments. And, I think in big games, by the way, this narrative that you're going to have a 90-minute spell where you're on top, I think has got to be forgotten to a certain extent, made even worse in a run-in. You're competing against the elite of the elite right now. And our record at, Spurs, especially away, everybody says that it's bad, but did you guys know that we have 1 loss in North London derbies away in the last 7? 1. And, I think a lot of that has to do with the pragmatism on show that Mikel has introduced into this team.
Suarez.
Yeah. But no, I don't think that first half.
Actually, it was Sead Klashnik, wasn't it?
Praised defensive.
They made a mistake a few years ago.
It was. But
no, I was talking about when Cedric clatters into Son in the. Sorry, anyway, Karen.
No, I had a little bit of a different perspective. I was really comfortable in the first half because I didn't feel that there was really major threat. There was 2 moments I thought on set pieces we could have done better at marking, broadly speaking, and then the Son chance at the end where he goes through the middle I thought was their best chance of the first half. But broadly speaking, they had really labored possession. Any possession Tottenham had was possession we wanted them to have. And despite us not having very good in-possession quality to get out, and I thought we were just very loose in our touches, the way that we defended Trossard, for example, who I thought was one of the worst in-possession players in the half, was so important in terms of snapping back into shape and being extremely narrow. There was definitely a concerted effort to block the center of the pitch for Spurs. And it was incredible. I just thought that the intensity that the boys showed out of possession was really, really top. And then to go 3-0 up, we were clinical, mate. We were clinical. People talk about moments. Arsenal lack moments. Arsenal lack transitional inevitability. We showed a transitional inevitability. I said a comment on Twitter, that second goal by Bukayo Saka, if you blinked, you would imagine that's Madrid. If you blinked, you would imagine that is Real Madrid and a Real Madrid counter. It was incredible. Forget the pass just on Kai Havertz, which deserves praise individually. But what about the touch for Bukayo Saka, which I'm not seeing? That is ridiculous. To pull that out of the air in stride, continue the run, then the casual Cruyff turn back that we always grown accustomed to in the slot far corner. I just thought it was a incredible transition. And I thought we were just clinical. We were just very clinical in both boxes, mate. So I never felt worried in that first half that, Spurs would come through. And I think their best chance came through Son at the end of the half, which I thought was a legitimate chance that they've created through the middle of the park. But other than that, the Romero set pieces, Wijsgaard and Odegaard marking him, I've always felt like we've had a marking issue on set pieces broadly. I don't think it's just been this year. There's moments that I feel we produce the wrong assignments. You always have assignments in defending set pieces. And I think broadly, we defend them very well. It's proven in the numbers and it's proven zonally. But some of the assignments that we assign to opposition players, Martin Odegaard tends to have some of the best aerial targets consistently in the last 2 years. And I don't think that's a smart idea. I think that we should be putting somebody a little bit more front-footed in that aspect. But broadly speaking, I don't think I was as frustrated with the first half that I saw a lot of people with.
Yeah, it was definitely a game of moments, and Arsenal produced them in very important times of the game. You talk about that Saka goal. It reminded me a bit of Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United. Remember that counter-attacks at the Emirates in the Champions League days, back in the days, where they'd counter-attack with Tevez, and not with Tevez, it was Rooney, Ronaldo, and people like that. It was very much clinical and smooth, and for Saka to score that goal was amazing, but I don't know what you guys made of the celebration. Cupping his ears, going over. I mean, this is meant to be Mr. Nice Guy, the PR. But I think that there was what I want to see, and even the first Arsenal goal, the corner. I don't know if you've seen the clip where he just turns to the guys that are giving abuse and goes, you give me some more. And I think that there is arrogance Bukayo needs. If Bukayo wants to be top and he wants to be elite, which he will be, you need to have arrogance. Salah, Hazard, we've seen these players have similar levels. Saka's numbers are up there. They're up there with the very best. That's now 6 goal contributions against the Big Six this season in 8 games. We're undefeated in all those games, I think he's only behind Salah and De Bruyne in terms of overall contributions against the Big Six in the last 2-3 seasons. This guy's up there in terms of numbers, and scoring an important goal in the heat of a title race was fantastic. But Alex, do you think Bukayo's now reaching a stage where he's unlocked arrogance that he requires?
Yeah, possibly. I think all the players, you look at Declan Rice, again, getting abuse off a corner and then delivering, once again from a corner and turning around and sort of giving it back to the crowd.
You need to start giving them more abuse at the Emirates.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to start abusing our own players. They deliver. No. But yeah, I think, look, maybe something we've not yet touched on is I love this Arsenal team. And I think we're developing different faces so brilliantly. And yes, as George was kind of alluding to, it wasn't maybe our most sparkling performance, and it wasn't something that we were, we're not going to look back on that and say, that was our best performance of the season and how brilliant we were and look at this, that and the other. I think there were great elements, as George was mentioning about our defensive performance, etc., etc. But what we are showing is different faces. What we showed yesterday is a grit, a determination to get through, a resilience that is so, so important. I really want to highlight David Raya in this performance and how he responded after the mistake he made. So many times in the last 20 years, because that's what happens with teams who don't get to that level, is when you make mistakes, we all feel it. The sort of the plug hole starts swirling and you see the water going down. You go, we know this is only going one way. But David Raya plugged that and pulled out an incredible performance and pulled out some of his most dominant box and sort of cross-claiming after that mistake happened. And I think it's indicative of a wider attitude that maybe Bukayo Saka is picking up on, that this team won't be beaten. They will not be beaten. They can go to Tottenham Hotspur, and they have that attitude of saying, look, it feels at the moment that Arsenal can only be beaten if we do something. And we saw that yesterday with Spurs. And we saw it in terms of the Ryan mistake and the Declan Rice mistake. Teams aren't beating us. We are beating ourselves, which it might be a problem and is a separate discussion. But there's a mentality switch, in my opinion, in this team at the moment where any type of game, we're up for it. Whether it's, as I think as Rob Edwards said a couple of weeks ago, whether it's a running game, whether it's a tactical game or a physical game, or whatever, we have so many faces for you that the only people that can beat us are ourselves. And that is so, so exciting to see that resilience, to see that whether it is arrogance, gamesmanship from Ben White, the different faces in this team, I think is so, so exciting, and it bodes so well for the future.
What's even more exciting for me is the centre forward display. For Kai Havertz, we have spoken a lot about Kai this season. Many videos about Kai and how to fix Kai. Right now, I don't think anyone's talking about how to fix Kai. I think people are going, look, this is Kai's position. number 9, playing, at times like a false 9, like a natural 9, making runs in behind, scoring goals, getting assists as well in this game. I mean, some of the link-up play was seriously special, and we see him get compared in the past to Dimitar Berbatov by Dimitar Berbatov. Tuchel saying that he reminds him of Van Persie and Bergkamp. This is high level praise from elite people inside the game. So now Arsenal fans are starting to see it. We've had a lot of Kai games this year where we've kind of gone, oh, well, he's been good and we should praise him for that. But now, this was a seriously special performance. I was like, whoa, this guy's good. And for £65 million, that's value there. And that was a performance there that I think we talk about reports of also changing some of the plans and not going for a striker as their goal scorer. That performance there would make sense why, depending on how consistently we get that performance. But his level over the last 10 games or so in the running has been very good. I'd argue he's been one of our better players in the high pressure moments, and scoring a goal in North London derby, shushing the Spurs fans. George, was this Kai Havertz's actual, I'd say, arrival game, not just as an Arsenal player, but also for the fans to go, look, he's actually here now, and this is a player that we can actually look at seriously and go, he's a force?
I think part of the issue with Kai is I don't think that people have ever doubted specific traits that would make him successful. I think part of the doubt has come, can you consistently produce intensity, a consistent baseline intensity? And the one thing I'll say is, I said this on Twitter where I felt that this was his most complete performance in an Arsenal shirt that he saved for a run-in in an important moment in a North London derby away. So you're never not going to endear yourself to fans. And I think producing that little meme content at the end, those are connectors that you do after 2 very good performances, by the way. I thought he was very good at Chelsea as well. It wasn't just the North London derby. I think he's been in really good form for quite a while. You don't need me to cite the amount of goals that he's scored as a 9 to see that. But there's been I think 9 games of sample roughly in terms of the center forward position, and he's produced very good numbers for that sample. It's small, it's not insignificant, but it's also not significant. And so you're left with yourself battling how much of this is able to be sustainable. And I think the only thing that I want to praise Kai for is there was actually, my favorite bit of skill was not the pass. It wasn't the brilliant link up, which he did do, and the timing about when to drop and when to help out. He's always had some aspect of that throughout the season, but it was the offside goal. You guys remember early in the game, he makes the run and immediately strikes the ball with venom, with purpose. And there was aggressiveness in the in-possession action. And I think that is the key. As long as we can have somebody who is offering a level of baseline conviction in his actions in possession, you're not going to be questioning whether or not Kai Havertz deserves a place in the team. You're going to be asking yourself, where do we put him? And that's a very different conversation to, I think, what was happening at the beginning of the season when we signed him. And I think to be fair, the better part of the season, I would say up until about February, perhaps late January, I think that Kai Havertz was up and down. There were moments, there were things that we were hanging on to about, as podcasters looking at, that's a great skill, that's a great aspect, that's a great piece of play. But he's been charting out kind of consistent performances, I'd say, between February, certainly February, until the end of the season, which is great. It's brilliant. And I think he's a big game player where he rises to the occasion. I think that depending on how big the opposition are or how intimidating they are, he's somebody that rises to that level. And so that's a really enticing thing to have as a big game player. The only thing is I think that we need to see consistency in possession from him. And if you have that, you have a serious player, because ironically, since he's come in, he's shown a level of consistency out of possession that nobody, even his biggest praisers or defenders rather, would have expected. I think that he's shown a level of commitment that is truly unique in that aspect. And I'm excited to see where he goes. My challenge to him is just to use this as the baseline. This shouldn't be a peak performance. I think this should be the baseline, because a lot of his actions were purposeful, they were intent, and there was no hesitancy in terms of what he offered. And I think as long as you're going to do that, you're going to be earning your place in the 11.
It's one of those now where, we talked about in the last video about Marcus Rashford having almost a used BMW with a V8 engine. And, if you can fix it, there's something special there. Is this an example of Mikel Arteta's engineering brilliance, Alex? Fixing a player, not just fixing a player, but I think giving him confidence again, and giving him a sense of belief that he can do it. We see that pass
So
that
what
he
you're
played.
saying is we should sign Marcus Rashford, is what you're saying?
No. Trust me, I did a video on Marcus Rashford. The fans are not on Marcus Rashford. However, what I'm saying in terms of Kai Havertz is that pass that he plays to Saka, and I'm telling you, in the early part of the season, he's not playing that pass. He's too scared. he's too scared to play that pass, but that level of confidence now to play that pass shows that he's evolving and believing more in himself. How would you think this affects also summer plans? Because it is going to have an impact now, because you can't look past his form, because it seems like, it looks to me sustainable. It doesn't look like he's doing something that's special and out of the ordinary. He's doing stuff that's very basic and fundamental, but not a lot of strikers can do. And he looks very complete.
Yeah. He's setting a platform for the rest of our attacking players, and I think he's kind of the rising tide that lifts all boats, really, in our forward areas. I think Arteta did an interview a couple of weeks ago, maybe around I can't remember what game it was, but he was talking about Kai Havertz, and he was saying, when he first came in, we thought he could probably play in a number of different positions, but actually we were going to see, sort of when he came in, how he fitted in with the team, how what sort of bonds he built and stuff. And I know Arteta does lie, but I don't think that's a lie. I think he genuinely just looked at Kai Havertz and went, that's a profile that we don't have in our forward areas and in our midfield. And what can we do with that when that comes in? Is that going to be as a number 9? Is that going to be as a midfielder, whatever? And this is modern scouting, modern recruitment. It's not this rigid idea of he is a number 9, he can only be a number 9. I'm closing my eyes in training every day, and if you don't play as a number 9 in the exact way I want you to be, that's it. No. That mentality is why, or the sort of the reverse of that mentality is why Havertz has developed at Arsenal as he has. Mikel's gone to him, show me who you are, because I know you have special qualities. We've seen them on the pitch, but we also see them. We forget that we don't see things in training every single day that the coaching staff and so on see. And he said, I'm not going to pin you down. I'm not going to say to you, you're going to be this or that and the other. Just show me your very, very best qualities, and it's up to me to put you in the best position, right? And what that is trust. It's trust. It's saying, actually, I don't need you to necessarily prove anything to me. What I need you to do is show me your best side. I know you've got it. You just need to show it. And that is trust. And in any walk of life, what you need from any boss or in any environment or in any kind of, in any situation, you need people who lift you up. You need people who go, actually, I see the qualities that you have. I see your specific, the words we might use as superpower or whatever, but whatever you might be, your specific qualities, whether it's at work or whatever. You never get the most out of people by criticizing them, by bringing them down, by reminding them of their flaws all the time. That's not to say to be blind to them, but, we all know in our lives, the best relationships are those that you feel like, actually, this person isn't going to let me get away with everything, but they see my best qualities and they're going to lift those up and also, allow me to sort of grow and develop. And that's what Arteta's done. And I do think it comes into that kind of, that new method of identification of talent. What's my environment? What are my demands of my players? What don't I have at the moment? And not being too rigid on, we need a number 9. Let's just get the number 9 who's scoring the most goals in, the Bundesliga. No. Let's be really specific. What qualities are we missing? And then once we've got those qualities in, what's the environment that we're creating to support Kai Havertz? All of the messaging around Kai Havertz at the beginning of the season was about supporting him, was about loving him, was about with Bayern Munich after the game. The first response, which I found was so interesting, after they went out, was, I want to be close to the players. I want to let them know how proud I am of them, for us getting this far. And it might sound a bit sappy and a bit crass, but that's how you get the most out of top level football players. That is, and we're seeing it. So you can either go, well, that's just not the way I was brought up, or that's not the way I, see football or whatever. That's fine. But I'm telling you, at the very top level, that is what the players need now, and that is what Arteta's brought Kai Havertz. He's brought him love. He's shown him support. He's given him time, and that's why I have so much confidence that, when we sign Marcus Rashford, he's going to get most out of it. I'm joking.
Yeah, that VA engine's going to be flowing. And he's going to be bursting through on that left wing. But look, in terms of the Spurs game itself, there was a specific moment that some Spurs fans won't let go of. Now, we're not talking penalties and stuff like that. We're talking about offsides and VAR ruining football. If you go on the Spurs channel, they talk about the titles literally have referee ruined the game. Spurs were robbed, apparently, even though it was a clear offside. Ironic. So we'll talk about the Mickey van der Ven moment where, as VAR has proved, it is offside, and I think next year will be a bit more conclusive with the whole automatic or semi-automatic VAR to offside technology. But what do you make of it, Alex? Is VAR ruining football, according to Spurs fans?
Of course it is, yeah. Of course Spurs fans will say that. Look, on the incident itself, I mean, I can't see anything other than it being an offside. I mean, the thing with offsides is people always go, oh, it's so tight. It's like, yeah, well, offside will always be tight. It's always going to be tight, and it's always going, and it's either going to be completely obvious, or a toe or a fingernail, but offside is offside. You know, there's a range of outcomes here. You know, it doesn't, just because it's tight doesn't make it not an offside. So yeah, it was a bit frustrating. Look, VAR isn't running football. We can have a million conversations around that. I actually think on the ref itself, Michael Oliver, I thought he actually had a quite good game. I like referees that let games flow and try not to give out too many yellow cards, especially in a game like that. But I didn't think, I don't know, I personally, that incident didn't sort of jump out to me too much. I think obviously Spurs fans will clutch at any straws to try and get away from the fact that they're terrible. But yeah, I think the one that did frustrate me maybe more was the Declan Rice one, because although it is a penalty, like it is, the fact that he's not looking at him does really frustrate me, because in the spirit of the game, I don't think Declan Rice has attempted that foul. I appreciate, I'm not saying it isn't a foul. It is a foul. But I don't know. For me, it feels like one of those things that will get given. But if it was anywhere else on the pitch, I'm not sure it's a foul. It's just a coming together of two people. One of whom is just clearly not looking. And you know my thoughts on this. As much as possible, I always want the players to decide the game. And, you know, penalties and these sorts of incidents do massively change the game. And we saw it again yesterday. So, you know, I personally, I would love those things not to be penalties, but I appreciate that it was.
Yeah, it was one of those where I think Spurs fans are clutching on the straws for sure, and it makes sense why. You know, they're fighting for North London's pride, and seeing themselves 20 points behind Arsenal is never going to be nice for them. Then coming to their ground and being 3-0 up at half time. I don't know if you guys saw how empty their fans were at the start of the second half. It was quite a beautiful scene, and obviously they got themselves back into the game. But George, in terms of Spurs fans accusing Arsenal of parking the bus and saying that, you know, I even heard a Spurs fan quote unquote say that Arsenal are a glorified Bolton. What'd you make of that?
If we're going to win more North London derbies being a glorified Bolton, then no problem. I mean, I think it's just sour grapes. You know, it is what it is. I don't really pay much attention to fans that want to act that way, because this has been Arsenal for the majority of the season. You can't sit there and claim that Arsenal are the best out-of-possession team in the world and then get annoyed at them for exercising their main quality. I mean, I find it a little bit ridiculous. And, you know, at the other end of the spectrum, I even had this post that talked about our goal-scoring efforts. I mean, we all talk about how great out-of-possession Arsenal are, but mate, like, we also are one of the most potent attacking forces in the league, period, end of story. Not just in terms of the total amount of goals that we've scored, but we're just one away from tying the record for the most 5-0 or more games in the league. And so I think Manchester City Centurions only have one more than us. I think we're at 5, and I think they've got 6. So this idea that Arsenal aren't a potent attacking force is just, it's bullshit. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. You know, we are an attacking force that is potent. I think that, you know, Spurs fans are just frustrated. They've been doing this for years. The amount of times that we've gone to their ground, played brilliant football, and they escape with a Harry Kane penalty or through a barge in the back, which is cheating and whatnot. I'll drink in the tears all day. I have no problem doing that. And I think that Arsenal in general, they deserved what they got. They've always deserved what they got. And I think regardless of you playing, whether or not you're in a deep block or playing some champagne football, what has stayed the same in the last couple of years has been that 3-0 at halftime scoreline. So I think that says more to you than the Bolton.
I also want to give Spurs a bit of credit, because I think they actually used their 2 weeks off really well. I said this on the instant reaction. And probably in hindsight, if I'm thinking back to it, look, I don't think we played, especially in the first phase, in the way we wanted to. I think we were far too sloppy with the ball. We were giving it away. I think Tomiyasu was targeted sort of on that left-hand side, and we weren't able to sort of build in the way I imagine we wanted to and dominate the areas that we wanted to. I think in the final third we were great, but you know, so that is obviously something that we could look at. But I will give credit to Spurs, and George mentioned it earlier. They effectively had a winter break in the middle of the run-in. And when you do that, when you have that, you have an opportunity to physically reset and really go for teams. And they were in that first half, especially. They were first at every ball. They won a lot of second balls. They sort of played us at our own game, and they managed to sort of nullify us in a certain way, using what they had, which was 15 days with no football. So in many ways, credit to Arsenal for digging in. Credit to Spurs for what they did, but also credit to Arsenal for digging in and saying, actually, okay, if you're going to come at us, we're going to go a little bit more direct. I think David Raya and Kai Havertz had a good connection that got slightly broken, but then got refixed in the second half with those balls out to Bukayo Saka. on the right hand side and sort of holding the ball up a little bit more, changing our approach, and again showing those many different faces. So credit to Spurs, because I think they did well at periods of the game, but in the end it's 3-0 at half time, and the 2 goals come from our mistakes. So I don't think they can look too happy after this game.
Yeah, it was a funny old game, a very, very funny game. And you're right, Arsenal to find moments, generate moments. And I think a great example of that, of individual brilliance and trying to find a way to play out, was Thomas Partey. And he had some shaky moments for sure, but there's a few moments. I think there's a moment in the 43rd minute where he just kind of glides past 2-3 players and plays it through to Trossard, and that little moment of brilliance there. But George, in terms of his overall performance, and the last 2 games, starting back-to-back league games for the first time since August, what do you think it means for his Arsenal future? Is it as simple as still letting go in the summer because we know he's not reliable fitness-wise, or is the quality showing again?
The quality never left. I think that the availability has always been a question. And I think that's just it with Thomas Partey. I think, relying on him is definitely not the answer. But this idea of whether or not he has the quality to play for Arsenal, to affect games in a serious manner, or to at least swing the potential of how we can play, I think have always been erroneous claims. And I'll go that far. He is absolutely a world-class player when he plays. The problem, he doesn't play. And he doesn't play often enough. And the first part of your sentence, back-to-back games for the first time since August, is not good enough for a team that's looking to compete for a title. So in terms of the whole question about moving on and what you do with a player like that, it's incredibly difficult, because I feel it's absolutely clear across many seasons that he's not somebody that you can rely upon. So you're definitely looking towards the market. Where I really differ with people is this idea to just get rid of him. And I think that we're already losing potentially Jorginho. We still don't know what's happening there. I think contract talks have stalled for the end of the season, let's say, and then Mohamed El Nene's leaving. I think that having Thomas Partey for 10 to 15 games a season is far more value than anything you're going to get on the market for him. He's not going to go for more than £15 million, at a stretch 20. And I think 10 to 15 games of Thomas Partey in a season is enough, especially if I save him, I put him in a cryo chamber, and he only gives me 10 to 15 games. Those 10 to 15 games of world-class quality offer something in the squad that nobody on the market can necessarily actually replicate to the same level of consistency. Whatever we buy is going to be, in theory, a downgrade on a talent level. But, in terms of an availability sense, that's why I've always said, let's move with a very smart bridge. Let's not spend big in this area. We don't need to spend big. We have the quality. You have Yusuf Fofana at Monaco in the last year of his contract in the summer, who offers very similar qualities to Thomas Partey, gives you the availability as well as the bridge to learn from. And you can still keep this player who offers you, again, 10 to 15 games a season of top quality. It wouldn't surprise me that he closes out the season and you're looking at it, and he's a big reason why this point swing was able to be this dominant out of possession, especially when you're looking at a team whose fabric is out of possession. And he gives us something in possession that very few players in that position can. And if I'm being really, really fair, and I'm looking at basically the Jorginho aspect of everything, he has been somebody that's been a brilliant signing that's done a lot of work for us. But one of the last things that I've really criticized Jorginho on in the last month has been his in-possession quality. And I think for all of his benefits, he hasn't shown that consistency in the last month in the run-in. And I think you don't paint that as something as an issue, but I have to be fair. If people are going to praise the usefulness of a Jorginho, I think it's really disingenuous not to praise the usefulness of a Thomas Partey. The problem is we just can't rely on somebody of that availability consistently in the future. So buy a bridge. I'm not on the camp of selling, but I'm in the camp of third DM. If he's there in the squad, and by the way, if he's there and he's fit, he starts. I don't think this is a case of does the quality not impact us anymore? Is he reaching a level of tail off quality-wise? I don't agree. Some of the stuff he was doing at Spurs, mate, was just absolutely incredible. You mentioned some of the things in terms of his ability to receive. There was a moment he receives deep in kind of the central center back, and he almost receives it off his weak foot, turns and bursts into space. And that ability to receive in a block is something we just simply don't have. And so I think that replacement on the market is at least £100 million. If you're going to ask for a Thomas Partey quality of an availability for 38 games a season, it's £100 million. And I just don't see a need for that when you've got Declan Rice and the man himself. So just buy a bridge and work smart from there.
It's one of those where we have spent £100 million on a midfielder, and now we have a bit of a dilemma because, do we keep him now as a 6 in Declan Rice, or do we push him forward and leave him as an 8? Alex, that's the question that we have to ask now, because this summer we've got the transfer windows around the corner, and we know that fans' rumours are already building of Bruno Guimaraes, and I don't think Douglas Luiz is far away either. But then before that, you had like Amadou Onana. What profile, if you were the Arsenal manager, or even as an Arsenal fan, do you think Arsenal should attack in terms of an actual out-and-out number 8 to allow Rice to drop deeper and maybe help progress from that way, or leaving Rice there and hoping that he can form a partnership with Martinelli or whoever left winger is going to be, and investing in more of a 6-8 hybrid?
I am a big fan of putting players in positions where they have they can show their best faces. Mm-hmm. And do things that no other players can do. I think when you sign Declan Rice for that sort of money, and when you sign a player of Declan Rice's quality, what you want is to be putting him in positions where he's doing things that only Declan Rice can really do. Now, what is that? I think that is exerting quality and influence on a game across a big space, which is a big quality of his in terms of his legs. It's also the anticipation of the game, deep. Not necessarily deep, anticipation, I suppose, and you could have that high up in the game or deep in the game, but sort of anticipation. So I think sometimes what's happening in our midfield, I think Ødegaard has found his role. I really think he has. It might be a case of changing it to the left hand side, but I think you then unravel a lot of work on that right hand side with Ødegaard, White, and Saka. I wouldn't mind seeing him on the left hand side, but I'm less keen than I was earlier on in the season when he hadn't quite found that sort of middle third role. He's cooking in this Arsenal team. He's really found some form. I still think Declan Rice is in a position where he's, and maybe this is partly why I think he's at sort of 70% at the minute, not playing badly at all. But Declan Rice was like our best player by some distance for about 15 league games in a row. And that's because he was putting in a massive shift, and he was doing basically everything. And he's not quite at the hero ball levels of West Ham, but he is slightly doing everything. He's jumping up in the pockets. He's dropping back into the block. He's receiving off the centre-backs. He's got so many... He's protecting Jorginho when he's playing. He's got so many jobs in that Arsenal midfield. And what I'd love to do is slightly reduce his sort of remit and reduce his kind of everything, the idea that he has to go and do everything in a midfield. I don't think is his best usage. So for me, it's about saying, what can we give Declan Rice, and what can we sort of, how do we sort of, focus the camera on his role a little bit better? And I think taking away some of his running is going to be really useful. I think allowing him to show his passing range could be really, really special for us, and could be something that we haven't yet seen yet, and allowing his anticipation of the game to be where it needs to be. So someone who can do a bit more of his running, someone who can do a little bit more of his kind of protection work and allow him to step forward when he wants to, because I think he can exert influence on the game there. Someone who can kind of be a counterweight or a make weight to Declan Rice in that midfield and sort of complement his qualities, I think is really, really important. And then it's up to the coach to decide what he thinks they are, or what he wants to sort of eke out of Rice. But for me, I think it's about physicality and running. Rice having to exert himself over that sort of amount of distance and across the pitch, to me, he's so good at it, but I'd love to focus it on what he's, maybe things that no one else can do. Absolutely no one else in world football can do. And Rice has some of those qualities. So, yeah, for me, it's about maybe a more physical midfielder. And I'm leaning towards a kind of whether it is an Amadou Onana or something like that, but someone who could do a bit more of that sort of leg work for Rice. It's
a game that also go over the line in a massive test. And, would we argue this was Arsenal's biggest test remaining? Because we still got to go to the old toilet. And, we've got to do a number 2 there as well. So do you think, looking at our next 3 games, George, Bournemouth at home, Old Trafford away, and of course Everton at home, is that 3 wins there?
Yes. I mean, I don't know why we need to be afraid about that. On one hand, you want to respect your opposition, but there's been this really weird recent narrative online that you need to be humble and understand the record at Old Trafford and all of these safety guidelines to protect people's feelings about potentially having a loss there. But this is not a good United team, Period. End of story. Like, I don't need to dress it up in a different way. They concede more shots than everybody in the league, bar Sheffield, and they aren't a team that I think offer the same threat that we've seen in the past. And so there's a level of respect that you want to pay to every part of the game. That's consistent. Those are the non-negotiables. You need to earn the right to win. We don't do that. You can lose to Coventry, you can lose to Sheffield, you can lose to whoever team you want. So there is a base layer there. But I'm going to make no mistake. I think that those are 3 teams that you should be looking at any point in the season, especially this United team, who are a mid-table team in terms of performance. And you should be looking at them with a very good positivity in terms of saying those are likely wins. Those are wins that we could see. I think that the North London derby, I think Wolves, and I think Chelsea, all 3 of those games offered a bigger issue rather to a lot of our weaknesses in terms of both a mid-block, in terms of hard transition runners. I think the next 3 are going to be a little bit easier in that aspect. For example, Bournemouth, I think, have a lot of injuries. Sinistera, Semenyo also got an injury recently. So we're actually quite lucky. I think from Wolves, Chelsea, Spurs, even with Dogi out, and now with Bournemouth, we face teams with pretty major injuries to their key players. But I'll end on this. I think Bournemouth are potentially the toughest of the lot. Of those 3, they're in incredible form. I think Iriola has done a brilliant job with that team. I think he actually has done the best point tally in the Premier League for them. So they're in a good moment, despite them having really high injuries. And I think that if you don't respect the game, you can get caught. But I'm not going to hide from the fact that you look at those fixtures and you say win, win, win. And I don't think that we should be as fans either, by the way. I don't know if this should transition into a talk about the run-in, but this is a very different Arsenal squad, and I still see a lot of PTSD fears of the last 2 to 3 years in people's minds. But fundamentally, if you look at the actual facts of our run-in, they actually don't really support it. If you were to look at the last 10 games, by the way, of each season from 2021, 22, all the way up until the current season, in the last 10 games of each season, we've had in 2021, 2022, a point per game average of 1.5. The same last year. Currently, we're at 2.29. Last year's season point per game tally was 2.21. So we underperformed by almost a full point in the run-in. Okay? Currently, we are operating at our season average of a point per game of 2.29. We are completely going the course. And that is over 2 points of difference, guys. That is a significant amount of difference in terms of not only Arsenal, in terms of how they're achieving their points. You can see it in the physical point tallies. We've already beat the last 2-year run-ins of 10-point games with 3 games left. The previous 10 points, we've achieved 15 points. We currently sit at 16 points, and we still have 3 games left. So I think that run-in Arsenal, there needs to be a conversation about having progression. There needs to be a conversation. And I think that constantly quoting the issues of the past and not recognizing what they're doing in the present is a disservice to the team. We still may not do it, even by winning all these 3 games, and we still may have to be pushed until the very last moment. But I'm sitting there very happy, proudly saying that there is absolutely clear progression. Our season point per game is significantly more. We've also done it in the last 10 games of the season, which is significantly different by over a point, guys. In a 10-game sample, that is a huge number on average. So I think that regardless of how easy I feel the fixture should be in the last 3 games, and we still have to go out there and do it, absolutely. You have to earn the right to play. You can't use all of these things to sit there and say that Arsenal winning is a given. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is let's sit there and have some chest and actually start outlining games that we see as wins. Because I certainly think City aren't looking at the rest of their fixtures and saying, not winnable, tough game. We got to respect the opposition. No, they're going into it saying win. We must go out there and win. That is the level. And I think that's the level that we've reached ourselves to.
Yeah, look, it's one of those now where, we have to look at the robots in Manchester and see if they're going to malfunction. However, we also got, a bit of a special coach.
But we have to be robots, mate.
I don't know if
mate, sorry.
No, we do have to be
really
robots.
quickly, we have to be robots. I hate this thing that Man City are robots. They're different. We have to be the robot. We have to sit there and approach each game saying, no, win. No, win. And that needs to be the mentality if you want to beat this team. And by the way, we've done it. To only be losing 45 minutes of football in 2024 I'm sorry, Arsenal are robots. Can we stop saying just Man City? Arsenal have been robots as well. And, we need to give it the respect that it deserves. Just because City are on a slightly longer unbeaten run doesn't take away that fact.
Yeah, and we've also got win the dog, so that counts as an extra win for Arsenal. Talking about wins, Mikel Arteta has 100 wins in 169 Premier League games, the fastest ever Arsenal to do so, fifth in Premier League history now, only behind Sir Alex, Klopp, Mourinho and Pep. Alex, is this guy normal?
Of course not. Of course not. I mean, he's an incredible manager. He's a genuinely incredible manager, and the conversations that he's in or starting to enter are the legends of the league conversations, and this is the thing, and it's a shame. I wanted to link a little bit more on what George was just saying, because I think there's more meat on that bone. I think if Man City drop points in this run-in, the whole narrative about Arsenal is they and the reason they won the league is because they were different this year. They were more resilient. They had all the things, they were on the run that they were on in 2024. They managed to find a way of getting over the line. We could do the exact same thing, and the entire narrative or the entire sort of vision of what Arsenal are is completely dependent on what Man City do. So that tells me that's not very good analysis. That tells me that in for the most part, if someone else doing something changes your entire view of what Arsenal are doing, that tells me it's not particularly good analysis. We are already showing this new face, this new side to us. The resilience in the run-in, the mentality to go out and say, look, we can win in every single different way, as I was sort of alluding to earlier. That I'm maybe more sympathetic to those people who are concerned about going to United, etc., and losing. And I think we have to get over those lines. But I'm winning, sorry. But I think I have to get over those lines, and that's kind of understandable. But equally, I do also slightly bemoan those people who are sort of saying we can't be confident going to these places. We need to be worried about this. A couple of years ago, had we won that way at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, this entire podcast would have been us celebrating about Spurs, wouldn't it? We've moved on. It would have. We would have spent the entire podcast going, isn't it brilliant we beat Spurs, etc., etc. But we said, yeah, that's good, and now we're looking further forward. And that's right. That's what Arsenal should be now. We're looking above them. This is no longer, they are our little brothers. There's no question mark. It's not like, are we the better team than Spurs? We know we're the better team than Spurs. We didn't play particularly well yesterday, but we know over the course of the season that in certain phases.
Can we go further with that and even put that in the camp of Manchester United and Chelsea and other teams? I think as well at this point.
We've entered different conversations, and Mikel Arteta is entering different conversations, and we can't. It's not an opinion anymore. It's facts. We are literally seeing facts, evidence, physical, tangible things that we are seeing, that Mikel is in different conversations. This team is in different conversations. We are entering different conversations as a club. We are doing different things. You look at our commercial revenues and how we're accessing the youth market, etc. We are attempting to make that jump as a club from the Chelseas, the Tottenhams, the Liverpools to go to that next level, right? That is what we're trying to do. And there's early signs and decent signs over a decent enough sample now that we're starting to do that. And obviously, it takes years to establish yourself as one of those actual giants. But that's what we're trying to do. So, Mikel Arteta to steward that through, and I was talking about this on the instant reaction, he's just a smart guy. And smart people make smart decisions wherever they go. When you are as emotionally intelligent as him, you can't, I was saying this, you can't divorce his intelligence as a man manager or as a coach from each other. If you understand why a training session might work and get through to the players, that tells me you also understand people. And if you understand people, you will also understand why someone might work in terms of their recruitment and someone might not. So that tells me you're also good at recruitment. And if you're also good at recruitment, you'll also be good at staff stuff. And if you're good at staff stuff, so that intelligence goes through the entire team. He is potentially, and not even in my opinion, the numbers bear out that he is potentially the next great Premier League manager. So to answer your question, he is not normal. And it's not my opinion, it's a fact.
Yeah, it is a fact. It is a fact. And we're up against another manager that's not very normal. He likes to touch balls, apparently, as Alex says. And also, he's got a few difficult games coming up. He's got Wolves at home. He's got Fulham away, Spurs away, and West Ham at home. Looking at those games there, George, if City are going to drop points, you know, and that's even a draw, by the way, because Arsenal have the superior goal difference, is it going to be against our little brothers in North London doing us a favour and helping us win a Premier League title?
Could well do. He hasn't won at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So, I mean, in terms of looking at narratives and whatnot, look, I think that they face teams that offer the biggest stretch of their weaknesses. And I don't think that this is a City team that look completely robotic, by the way. They're getting points in a robotic manner, but they definitely look vulnerable. They're not secure in transition, and I think that they offer up chances. And so, for example, if Chris Wood is not there and Awanihi is there, I don't know if they're able to continue that scoreline. And, you know, some of the chances that Chris Wood gets, I found that falls to Awanihi, if you could sub that in, that's a different story. And I think Wolves, you know, even in terms of, I think Munoz is almost one of the best performing strikers of 2024. If I had to look at it, he's in top form. That was a great pickup by Fulham. So I don't think that Fulham, and especially Craven Cottage, have been a ground that, you know, the top six haven't necessarily thrived at. I mean, Arsenal know that, but just in general, the big six have struggled at Craven Cottage. So it's a tough game. And then, you know, you look at Spurs, they offer the clear issue. I think people would think about that game as probably the most likely of the remaining games. But even West Ham, they're not an easy team. They're a transition-based team. They have a really good defensive structure that, you know, are also going to be competing for European spots. I think all of these teams will, in a sense. I think Wolves less so, of course, and Fulham as well. They're kind of on the proverbial beach. But I still think that they're teams that offer the biggest test of City's weakness. And you know what? If they can go through that test, then again, fair play and respect to them. I think Arsenal came out of their really 3-game issue. And I think Manchester City are upcoming against a 8-day period where they face 3 teams, 3 very tough physical running teams against what is understandably a very tired part of the season. So could they do it? Yeah, absolutely. I really don't believe it. And, you know, it's really good timing because Bukayo Saka just came out with a quote that talks about the fact that, you know, Man City aren't perfect. They can drop points. And, you know, I really back that argument with him. You know, this idea that, you know, Man City are infallible, I don't think is true. I think that Arsenal are going to have their own struggles, by the way, in their own 3 games. It's not going to be as smooth sailing as we think. And the closer this gets to the last game of the season where we keep matching points, going point for point, the pressure just increases and increases and increases. And I think that there's going to be a psychological edge to facing Spurs right before West Ham. That's going to be huge. And whatever the result happens at Old Trafford, I really think that could really impact things. You know, I think going into it, for example, with a win and understandably only needing Everton for Arsenal is going to be a significant part that even Man City haven't really faced in the last couple of years, where they've had to win a previous hard-running game right before the last game of the season. You know, 3 games in 8 days, it's not a good fixture no matter how you slice it. And if they do it, then fair play, respect. But it's going to be a stress on the squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking about the stuff that is rare and something that we, you know, some fans can't quite understand. George, this is specifically for you because we know you know a lot about this. 24 goals in 7 games for the Arsenal under-18s. For a guy that's, I believe, 16. Talk to me about Chido Obi Martin.
Yeah, it's this youth conversation is a really difficult one to have because you have certain people that have never watched him that place kind of the broad youth narratives that you see. Like, you know, he's 16, he's really tall, he uses his physicality. That's why he shines so much. But this is a player that has broken the Hale End U18 record, by the way, previously held by Valerian Balogun, 2 years younger than what he did it. 2 years younger than what he did it. And by the way, he has done it in far less minutes. He hasn't played as many minutes in the U18. He has split minutes between the U21 as well as the U18. And he's done this record in a significantly smaller amount of time. This is a player that I've said online, you need to think about in your planning of a club. He is in the category of Ethan Nwaneri. And, you know, if you're going to look at what Ethan did the season before, by the way, he did exactly this. He wasn't committed just to the U18s last season. He was flirting between the U21s. He had cameos, but, you know, I think Cheeto needs to be in a period where he's the main U21 striker. He needs to be in a period where he's then, if he's excelling, needs to be put on loan. We need to be proactive with this development. We need to highlight him because he is a player that is an extremely complete profile. If people like Alexander Isaac, they will love Cheeto. He is a combination of both that and Victor Osimhen for me in terms of the type of profile he is. He's a 6'2", physical presence that loves to press, and he's a relentless runner in the channels. But what he has that's really unique is he has a brilliant ability to manipulate the ball and dribble like a winger, like an Isak. And he has this composure in the box that he's constantly aware to find corners. Even when he's pressured, he has a variety of finishes where he consistently makes the right choice in terms of his shot placement. And these are very exciting qualities that I'm highlighting. Like, they're not just things that you go and you pass off and you say, okay, another exciting youngster or another exciting physical youngster. He is intelligent in how he uses his physicality. He doesn't rely on it. He isn't somebody that constantly abuses the fact that he's 6'2". He makes intelligent runs. He finds space when there is none. And, he is somebody that dominates his area in the box. A lot of the goals that you'll probably see, whether it's Liverpool and you see all these exciting goal tallies, a lot of them are hard work pressing, guys. He is not somebody that avoids the dirty work. And I just think that is a project that you look at and you say, that is a very interesting package. Very interesting. If you combine the offensive quality, the diligence out of possession, you combine the striker of the ball. He's a brilliant striker of it. Really, the weaknesses that he has is experience related. It's about adjusting to each level that he's going at. And he's already 16. He's got something like seven goals in 10 games for the Denmark U17s. He's an experienced international in that sense. I think he's just a player that is breaking records earlier than some of the top professionals that we've had that have gone on to have great careers. Valerian Balogun is not a mistake. Just because he got sold, he's had a very good career at Monaco. We've made him a professional. And I think this isn't a case of basically just saying, well, he's a youth. Let him cultivate in Hale End. Let him produce and develop at his own patience. Guys, he's breaking records in minutes that are significantly less than some of the top talent that we've released recently. You need to consider it. You need to develop it. And this is an area of improvement that I'm looking towards because we haven't done the best in terms of our youth integration. Whether you want to believe it's a talent problem or whether or not you want to believe that it's an issue with Mikel Arteta in terms of integrating talent, what we haven't done is we haven't propped up the development careers of our youth enough. And it doesn't have to be with Arsenal. It doesn't have to be with them. But what we do have to do is make sure that we're providing challenges to these youth that make sense. Cheeto Obi deserves no part in the U18s. I'm sorry, breaking the amount of records that he's done, it's quite clear. You don't have to be an expert or a youth enthusiast to understand that this is clearly past his level. I'm sorry, lads, scoring how many goals in one match, 7-0, like that is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And it's not been once, by the way. I think he's scored 4 or more goals 5 times this season in the U18s. That's consistency, guys. That's not 1-2 games. It's beyond his level. So I think for me, what I'm really upset about, for example, is he hasn't had enough cameos in the U21s this season. You can see that level is not fulfilling him. Okay, yes, he's young. Make the jump. Make him exposed to that because he's doing things that aren't aiding his development, scoring 5-6-0 in an environment he's clearly ahead in. Now, how we manage that talent is going to be something I'm looking towards. I will end on this. I think that is a type of talent that you build a squad around. And there are not many. They don't come around often. We probably have only 1 or 2 more talents that do this. But looking at Oscar Bob and how he has been managed is the right way, by the way. Came in as a talented 16-year-old, has gone on several loans and returned to Man City, a complete player able to contribute to the first team. If Cheeto Obi is not going to be given a chance to have those developmental minutes at Arsenal at a level he deserves, then get him on loan, get him to a level that he's able to experience quite regularly, and get him ready, whether that's for Arsenal or not, in a career that makes us an asset. That has to be the mentality that we have. But yes, he's a striker that I've been very excited about. I think we haven't produced a striker of that talent level in a while. He is somebody that is very, very exciting. And the best clubs in the world are watching him. Make no mistake about it. It is another Ethan Nwaneri situation where there's going to be a lot of people trying to poach him. He has yet to sign scholarship terms. He can't. He has to wait till he's 17. It's going to be a fight, just like Ethan Nwaneri was. And, I know that Dortmund are there already. He's changed agencies. It's definitely a player that we need to look at and manage well. And I think this is a perfect test for the new management, by the way, because we have a new talent director that's come in from Rangers, and I think we've talked about it on a previous pod. This is a perfect example to basically lay your framework for the future.
Do you not do something this summer because of Chido Obi?
You don't buy for me a 21 project. You don't buy a project for me. If anything, what this does is it highlights the fact that you need to buy now and buy in the moment, which is, by the way, something that we've needed to do to take the next level, period. You're not going to take the next level in the final third. So it's not just Chido Obi, mate. People confuse this, but just because you have a top talent, it shouldn't stop you if you find a better talent. I do firmly believe this. If Kylian Mbappe becomes available and he's 21 years old, you don't stop it because you've got a brilliant 16-year-old. That's not the logic. But this idea that Arsenal can take the next step in the final third by buying and recruiting another project, meanwhile, they have already a project Kai Havertz center forward that is brewing at 24 years old. Meanwhile, already having prospects that are brilliant, and not just Chido Obi, you've got Beereth as well, you've got Jesus, you've got Martinelli. We have center forwards. I don't understand the logic in terms of going for a Sesko, a Xerxes. These brilliant, by the way, profiles, but are self-made projects. And that's where I think it affects plans. So in an indirect way, sure, it does. I think you buy now, but then again, I honestly don't feel that Arsenal take the next step buying another project in the attacking third. They need to buy a Declan Rice.
It's crazy because the amount of players that are coming through the Arsenal Academy, that from 16 to even 14, I heard Max Dauman's got something like 4 assists and 5 league games for the Arsenal 19s. 14, it's crazy. And talking about 14, hopefully Arsenal make it 14 this season with the 14th league title. It would be nice. It would be very nice. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching as always, and we will see you very soon. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.